Hey friends, July 30th, we are going to have fun today. We are going to harvest a couple of the 5-gallon grow containers with the fingerling potatoes. Rochelle's going to cook up a recipe for us later in the kitchen with the air conditioner on. And we're hoping to score some hatch chilies today at one of our local markets, and we're going to roast them. Here we go. We've got our tarp down here, capture any soil, and we'll put it back into the compost. Cross fingers. Let's see what we got. Does not look too good. Wow. Nothing. But we knew that might happen. All right. Number 2. No, it's the way it goes, guys. We tried it, it just didn't work. So we've got the other ones over here. We'll give it a shot next time. Well, no luck on the 5-gallon. We thought that was gonna happen, but we do have these here, and I have dug into this and saw some Yukons. So we'll see. Hopefully we're gonna let this sit for another week or 2, or maybe even longer. When the foliage starts to kind of die back, and we'll go ahead and give it a try and harvest these. Moving onward. Well, you can't win them all, okay? You're gonna empty a couple of pots here and there, there's gonna be nothing in there, but it's okay. We'll buy some potatoes from Idaho. We still got our 30-gallon ones. Right now we're just working on the fence line. Rochelle's over there helping me out. So we're just gonna pull all this dead foliage. We're gonna rake all the pine mulch, and we'll save that for later. Well, we've got everything cleaned up. All the pine straw, we piled it up. We'll probably use it again. I went ahead and fortified some of the peppers as well too. A brand new composted soil along the fence. Everything was ripped out. Now we're gonna go ahead and deep soak all the beds. I don't want the microbes to die. We're at day 49, no rain, 102 to 108. Same thing in the 10-day forecast. So we're just gonna hang in there and deep soak all these, and hopefully by September we'll start planting. So we'll show you how we're doing this. So every 10 minutes, we're just gonna move it over and let it deep soak this section for 10 minutes, and we'll just keep going until the whole beds are done. Hey guys, so for deep watering, what we do is literally just have the hose on a trickle. We'll just let it deep soak for about 15 minutes. Move it around, just keep going. We'll deep soak this fig tree for about an hour, and that will keep it alive, keep it healthy for about, with this weather, 2-3 days. We have to do it at least every 3 days. All right, we are done outside. It's 10:30 and it's 92 degrees. So it's already getting hot. We're going into the air condition. Rochelle's gonna do a really cool recipe. Excited about that. And then hopefully we can get some hatch chilies. And if that's the case, tomorrow, Sunday, we are gonna be roasting and backpacking and making hatch salsa. So that'll be fun. Hey guys, we got 10 pounds. We went to our local market, a little Mexican market. And from Hatch, New Mexico, we've got hatch peppers. These are seasonal, they're wonderful. And we've been to New Mexico a couple of times before. It's amazing to see how they grow. But yeah, we're gonna take these probably tomorrow. We're gonna roast them over the open fire, and we're gonna make salsas, and we'll probably backpack some of them as well too to do other things with. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. But Rochelle's gonna go ahead and do her recipe next.
Hey everyone, Mike and I are bringing you back in the kitchen today. So Mike brought home a really nice head of cabbage. And of course, you know, with the hot summer and so on like that, you know, the go-to is something like coleslaw or something like that. But I decided let's figure out something to make a meal. I decided that I wanted to maybe look at cabbage roll recipes. Well, I came across a cabbage roll casserole recipe. So basically it's kind of like a deconstructed cabbage roll. Found it on Bon Appetit, and so we'll hopefully kind of add the recipe in there. I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps of the recipe. That's one of the reasons I really like this recipe, is because it did steps, but I kind of want to show you. We've done some pre-cooking because basically we wanted to have stuff ready to go, you know, so that we could kind of show you how it gets assembled. This one I will say there can be kind of a lot of steps to it, you know, but not impossible, and I'll tell you, in my opinion, much easier than actually doing the whole cabbage roll. It's kind of almost like, I was telling Mike, I would call it like a cabbage roll lasagna. So what we're going to look at first here is kind of the meats that I've got assembled. Okay, so this is kind of the finished product of the meat stage. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to make sure I was kind of following kind of the steps of the recipe is Mike and I did do a few modifications of it. So what we started out first here, Mike and I decided to, this recipe calls for ground beef, or it even said you could use like a plant-based you know, product if you wanted.
No, meat only.
No. We decided to go turkey meat, again, just with it being summer, just something a little lighter. So that was kind of one of our first modifications. But what you do first, of course, is whatever meats that you're choosing to use, then what you do is you fine chop some dill and garlic, and then you kind of, you know, absorb that in to the meat, and then you cook off the meat. Second step, of course, is then kind of moving into the idea that you can pre-cook the meat, but you don't have to cook it all the way through because it's also going to cook in the casserole form. We did that first, and then the next step is to take a very large chopped onion and then cook that onion. So what you do is you kind of remove the meat from the pan, and then the juices from the meat you can cook the onion in. and then you add in, you know, salt to taste, crushed red pepper flakes, and ground cinnamon. And I know that may sound a little weird, you know, but actually it really is very tasty. Cabbage rolls in themselves, if I did the proper research, actually originated out of kind of the Jewish Middle Eastern areas of the world. Yeah. And so this is a very Middle Eastern style recipe. So cinnamon, very flavorful, spices and so on like that is a generous part of this recipe. So the onions get cooked and so on like that. With the crushed red pepper, and that's another modification that we did. We actually added in a little extra crushed red pepper. We wanted a little bit more spice to it. I think we also put some sambal in it, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's a chili, garlic, Asian. Oh, it's just so good.
Yeah,
so
again,
spicy.
we just kind of enjoy the extra little spice to it. Amazingly enough, the amount of cinnamon that you use in this recipe, it does shine through, but it's not like overpowering or like super strange. So then the onions are cooked with their spices, and then you add back in the meat. As you add back in the meat, then you can add in cans of, this recipe says whole tomatoes, but we went ahead with diced tomatoes, because in the end it wants you to kind of chop it up in the meat. So we went ahead and used diced tomatoes. And then again, another modification that we added was we did add a little extra just tomato paste. It really wants you to try to get rid of as much of the moisture as possible, you know, because otherwise, of course, it could really break down the cabbage leaves when it cooks and things like that. You know, but so we added in just a little extra tomato paste just to add to the tomato flavor and kind of thicken things up a little bit. Okay, so next stage in this recipe is the stage I will say can be a little daunting. So what you first start out with is a whole head of cabbage. And now this recipe says you can choose something like Savoy. Mike just picked up a really nice sized head of just regular green cabbage and so on like that. But what you do first is that you core the whole cabbage head, trying to get that kind of core, really heavy, you know, kind of part out of the middle. The stuff that can be a little bit harder to break down that you might end up chewing on. And then of course you peel off the layers of the cabbage. And we got some really nice sized cabbage leaves here. I don't want to break it up too much. But then what you do is you have salted boiling water, and then you put these cabbage leaves in the salted boiling water. 15 to 20 seconds. Now, the ones that were a little bit closer into the core of the cabbage, we did boil a couple of seconds, a few seconds longer, just to kind of break them down. But you know, again, don't get stressed if like you don't get the really whole leaves. I mean, look, some of ours kind of came out this way. Again, I mean, think of a lasagna sometimes. The lasagna noodles break up. It's going to happen. But then you also want to try and dry them off. So you can see we've kind of got them layered here in paper towels. Okay, so next step, so we've got the cabbage leaves, we're getting them drying off, so on like that. The next stage is there is actually rice also in this recipe. So again, it can have a little level of hardiness, but one of the things I really liked about this rice inclusion in this recipe, it's very summery and very light. Now we chose to use a basmati rice, and Mike always recommends that you soak it just a little bit first before you cook it. So he did that. That kind of leaches a lot of the starches. So again, some of that heaviness kind of goes away. And then we cook the rice. You want to cool the rice down, shaking all the water from it, or getting as much of the water retention from it as you can.
Can I ask you a question, Rochelle? If you're going low carb, can you go ahead and leave the rice out and maybe put a different vegetable in, maybe corn or hominy or something?
Possibly, actually. Well, hominy might not work. Just because that has some carb content
to it. Just leave it out?
But yeah, actually I was thinking about that earlier. I was thinking like zucchini could go like
squash,
really nice in
shredded.
Here, whatever. Or again, if you're plant-based in your diet, you know, something like that. But you know, cook the rice just in regular salted water. And then what you add in is you add in lemon zest and dill. It's a wonderful flavor. Now, again, here's a modification that I did. It calls for lemon zest, but I went ahead and cut half of the lemon and put lemon juice in to
nice.
The lemon zest. And not only did that clear out my bowl and I got to use all my content, but it's really added to the flavor. Okay, so first thing is, of course, you get the pan ready. We've layered it with just a little bit of oil. Now, here again comes another modification that we're adding in. Mike always recommends that you just layer just a slight layer of kind of whatever your sauce is and so on like that before you start laying down your lasagna noodles, or in this interpretation, our cabbage leaves. So I'm just kind of putting a slight layer. Not going to make it too thick, because again, we also want to make sure we have enough for our layers and so on like that.
Which kind of keeps it from sticking, right?
That's what you say. And then, of course, we just start adding in our cabbage leaf layers.
Yeah, guys, we're going to plant cabbage here late September, October. We can't grow it here in the spring for the summer, and especially this year, obviously.
Especially this year.
Yeah, we had a bad one. But you know what? We tried to harvest a couple of the 5-gallon fingerling potatoes. We didn't get anything. We had a feeling that was going to happen. But you know what? We're just going to keep going. Fall is going to be wonderful. God is going to bless us. So that's the first layer.
Okay, yeah, this is the first layer. So, and then again, you start with your meat. And again, you can decide how generous you want to be with kind of the meat layers.
Don't hold back.
We've got a lot of meat here, a lot more than I expected. So, so layering that through, and then let me get a little bit more. Make sure I've got all the sections.
Hey, question for you. If we don't use all this meat, we can do something else with it.
Probably,
we can make a shepherd's pie.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, now comes a rice layer.
Yeah, this is already looking really good.
Yeah, I'm very excited about trying this. I've done cabbage rolls in the past, and they're okay. But I really liked kind of the freshness of this particular recipe. You know, having the lemon flavors, the dill. I mean,
a little more user-friendly, too.
I think so.
I mean, you're going to cut it like a lasagna.
Okay. So there's the next layer.
Wow. All right, what are you doing now?
So here comes the next layer of the cabbage lasagna or cabbage casserole.
How long are we going to be cooking this? Do you know off the top of your head?
Let's see. I know it's
375.
No, it's 400.
Okay, 400.
And let me see. About 20 minutes. It looks like.
Oh, that's
the recipe
quick.
saying. Yeah. Now I'm going to dig down here because I want to use the brighter green. Look at those bright green
Oh, that looks nice.
pieces. So I'm going to dig down and get those. I really want to use those. And of course, obviously, a little overlap is certainly kind of recommended. And here comes the meat again. I'm going to be a little more generous with the meat and the tomato mixture this time. I'm not sure I felt like I was.
Thank you.
You know what? Like I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, boy, maybe mushrooms would have been good in this too.
That would have been good.
I don't know how authentic that would be to like cabbage rolls, but. So this part continues.
So another layer of meat, the sauce, and then rice. That looks really good.
I think this looks tremendous. And again, you know, even though again it's maybe, you know, a little bit, it can be a little bit of a complicated recipe. I think probably to me the biggest complication and biggest worry was the, you know, peeling of the leaves and trying to get them to stay as whole as possible. Oh, look, we're actually using up
It's
all
just
of the rice, which is terrific.
just the pre-prep work, like you do in a kitchen.
Yeah, which is part of the reason that we did all this pre-prep and then just showed you guys mostly kind of our assembly on it. So. Okay, now we're coming up on final layers here. I'm trying to use some of the prettiest ones, the darkest green ones. Those are usually the ones on the outside.
Yeah, you got those nice ones there.
I am going to squish down a little bit because we've got a layer of some fun stuff to put on top, much like you do.
Now, are you putting another layer of meat or no?
No. At this point, this is kind of the top layer.
So we've got all this meat left. Maybe we'll make a shepherd's pie. Get some taters. Of course, we didn't grow any taters so far, but that's all right. We've got a second chance with our 30-gallon containers. Hey, you win some, you lose some, right? We're not going to cry about it. we're just going to move forward.
Okay, and here comes sort of the final stages. So this recipe calls for creme fraiche or sour cream to be kind of part of the top layer. So it recommends that you take your creme fraiche and you spread it across the top. Let me see what I can do with that. First,
There you go.
I will admit, it sounded a little strange to have sour cream, but I have absolutely no doubt it's probably going to accentuate some of the cabbage flavor a little bit.
Sour cream actually does pretty much cook really well. It will melt. It's really difficult to burn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if you put a layer of cheese or something on top of that, it's actually going to be nice, like a bechamel, like a saucy, soury bechamel.
Yeah, it didn't call for like any mixture of like spices or flavors. I suppose you probably could do that if you wanted to, but we're just kind of trying to follow the recipe since it's the first time we've tried this one, actually.
Okay.
So I'm going to do my best to get that spread. Mike and I talked and we decided, yeah, let's add a little flavor in, a little salt and pepper. So I've got my pepper going first, and so again, just a modification that we're adding in.
Just a little more flavor, a little more seasoned. Sour cream.
I don't recommend too much salt
No.
at this point because again it will wilt the cabbage leaves even further, but we decided we want to try a little bit. Alright, and so again, to top the layer, much like you would a lasagna, we're going to add on the rest of our meat mixture.
Yes.
And then from there, we actually had some fresh mozzarella in the household that we bought for another recipe. And we decided to use that. Now the recipe with Bon Appetit actually recommends a low moisture recipe, or a low moisture mozzarella, which fresh mozzarella may not necessarily fit that. But what we did is Mike grated it up, and then we kind of left it sitting out counter side. And, oh, this is wonderful. It actually looks like we're going to use up all of our meat. Not that it wouldn't have been fun to have some leftover. But now we know exactly that we did kind of the right thing with that. And yes, I'm getting a little messy. I'm putting my hands in there. I promise.
Hey, the best kitchen tool is your hands. That's for sure.
Okay, and I'm just going to take... All right, and now the fresh mozzarella.
That looks so good already.
It really does, and it actually smells really good, too.
It's not even in the oven. You could do a low carb and just omit the rice, and I think it would be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually something kind of nice about this recipe is that it is generally fairly low carb. We do have the rice with this recipe, but again, you could modify that. That's another modification you could make if you so chose. Just maybe either cutting out the rice or putting something different. You know, ricing zucchini, ricing summer squash.
Cauliflower.
Cauliflower, that's a great one. Great idea. Okay, so here it is, ready to go in the oven. They do recommend for the first 20 minutes that it be covered in foil. And so, Mike, walk me through what you do or don't do with the foil.
So there's two sides to foil. There's one side that's polished, that'll make you blind, and there's one side that's dull. You want the polished side on the food.
And I know it's really typical to just pull it out because the way that they the way that they package them, and then to pop it on that way. But
yeah.
Chef training says
just
shiny side down.
The shiny
right?
side, so you don't get any aluminum in the food.
And then we're gonna spray with a little bit of spray.
With some olive oil spray.
What's the purpose of that?
Just so the cheese doesn't stick.
Or not as much, at least.
Yeah.
And here we go. And I already feel the heat from the oven, so we're going to try and be quick at this.
I'm excited.
Okay. And in the oven we go for 20 minutes. After that, you let it bake for about 20 minutes, and then uncover it. And increase the temperature actually to 425, and bake until until the cheese is golden brown and bubbling, so somewhere around 18 to 20 minutes, and then hopefully let it cool for about 10 minutes before.
Sounds good.
Here we go.
Go.
heat from the oven.
Yeah, we don't need any more heat in the house. I'll put on the vent.
Okay, first reveal. Now we're going to uncover. Ooh, look at that.
Ooh, it looks like a lasagna.
We still got a little sticky cheese, but that's okay.
That's okay. Now what?
And now it goes back into the oven for about 15 minutes, uncovered, in the hopes that we're going to brown up that mozzarella.
Okay. All right. Get a close up of that. Okay. Looks delicious. Yummers.
Good.
Hey, thanks for hanging out. It was delicious.
It is good.
Tomorrow we are gonna roast hatch chilies.
And I've got a lemon upside down cake.
Ooh. See you then. God bless you guys.